Hello students. In the second unit of business environment, we will study the strategic environmental analysis. After studying this unit, you will be able to assess the theoretical framework of business environment, discuss the recent developments in political, economic and financial environment, explain the techniques of scanning the environment, conduct a SWOT analysis of the Indian economy. Now first, what is the environmental analysis? An environmental analysis can be defined as the process by which the factors of the internal and external environment are monitored to find out the likely impact on the company's performance. The factors usually have both positive and negative impacts on the firm's performance. A successful environmental analysis includes both internal and external environmental analysis, in which doing internal environment analysis is to find out a firm's relative strengths and weaknesses, and conducting external environment analysis is to find out the potential opportunities and threats to the firm. The role of environmental analysis in strategic management is quite crucial. Ian Wilson has compared the role of environmental analysis with the function of radar. A business firm operating in an uncertain environment must have a vision of the business and a system of environmental analysis. Many of the research studies also suggest that those organizations which undertake systematic environmental analysis perform better than those which do not take such an exercise. The role of an environmental analysis in strategic management can be seen in the following ways. Understand how industry structure drives competition, which determines the level of industry profitability, to assess industry attractiveness, to use evidence on changes in industry structure, to forecast future profitability, to formulate strategies to change industry structure, to improve industry profitability, to identify key success factors. The industry environment consists of suppliers, competitors, customers. The environment analysis is a strategic tool we use to understand the success or lack thereof of a business. It is a process to identify all the external and internal environments which can affect the organization's performance. The environmental analysis entails assessing the level of threat or opportunity various factors might present. These evaluations are later translated into the decision-making process. The analysis helps align strategies with the firm's environment. There are many environmental analysis tools that a firm can use, but some are more common. The most used tools for a thorough process of environmental analysis of an organization or even of an industry is the PESTEL analysis and SWOT analysis. PESTEL analysis consists of various factors that affect the business environment. It is a macroeconomic tool used to understand specifically the external environment of the greater environmental analysis. Each letter in the acronym stands for a certain factor. These factors can affect every industry or organization directly or indirectly. In the PESTEL, the first letter is P, or the political factors. In the diagram it is denoted as government and the politics. The political factors basically cover the country's current political situation. It also reads the global political conditions, effects on the country and business. When working on this factor, it is important to assess the government policies, and regulations regarding the industry you operate in to find barriers as well as opportunities. Some political factors during an environmental analysis are government policies, taxes, laws, and tariff, stability of government, entry mode regulations. Then the economic factors, as the name suggests, involve all the determinants of the economy and its state in environmental analysis. These are factors that can conclude the direction in which the economy might move. So businesses analyze this factor based on the economy of the host country, of the business or the country to which it wishes to expand to. It helps to set up strategies in line with any potential changes. Some determinants can assess to know how economic factors are affecting your business below. The inflation rate, the interest rate, disposable income of buyers, credit accessibility, unemployment rates, the monetary or fiscal policies, the foreign exchange rate, etc. And the social structure. Countries vary from each other in more aspects than one. Every country has a distinctive mindset, traditions, cultures, values, beliefs, and norms. These factors have an impact on the businesses that exist in these countries. The social factors might ultimately affect the sales of the products and services, provided the host business makes good use of them. Some of the social factors for an environmental analysis are the cultural implications, the gender and connected demographics, the social lifestyles, the domestic structures, educational levels, distribution of wealth. These factors can have the most influence on popularity of a business because they dictate how strongly a business is intertwined. They are perhaps the most important to consider when a business wants to market its offerings effectively. Then the technological factors. The advancement of technology is nothing short of extraordinary. The rate at which it evolves and transforms is exponential. The advancement naturally greatly influences businesses performing environmental analysis, including this factor will help stay up to date with the occurring changes. Technology alters every minute. This is why companies must stay connected all the time. Firms should integrate when needed. Technological factors will help in identifying opportunities or even limitations to your business growth. Firms can use these factors in the environmental analysis for their benefit. New discoveries, rate of technological obsolescence, rate of technological advances, innovative technological platforms. If a business accurately identifies all the technologies it can implement to grow operations and to increase productivity in a sustainable fashion, they have done their environmental analysis very well. Then the legal factors. Legislative changes take place from time to time. Many of these changes affect the business environment because they govern how they are to go about without any violations. If a regulatory body sets up a rule for industries, for example, that law would create certain limitations or rather boundaries for all the businesses within that industry. So businesses should also analyze the legal developments in the respective environmental analysis. Some legal factors are product regulations, employment regulations, competitive regulations, patent infringements, health and safety regulations. Law and regulations have the power to outright shut down businesses under certain conditions, so it is compulsory that one knows during the environmental analysis what legalities to look out for. Then the environmental factors. The location influences business trades. Changes in climatic conditions can affect the trade. The consumer reactions to offerings can also be an issue. the environment in which a business exists has a lot of impact on it, and from it all the side effects or a business operations must have on stakeholders and the environment also comes under here. Some environmental analysis factors are geographical location, the climate and the weather, waste disposal laws, energy consumption regulation, people's attitude towards the environment. Every business plan to avoid harming the environment in any way, the wastage should be minimized and the toxicity of production be eliminated as much as possible. The determinants of industry profitability, three key influences are there: the value of the product to customers. The more the product have value in the minds of the customers, the more profitable the industry will be. Then the intensity of competition, the more the competition is there, the lesser the profitability of the industry. Relative bargaining power at different levels within the value chain, the more the bargaining power to the outside agencies, the more difficult it will be for the firm or the industry to earn profit. We can see the spectrum of industry structures. Here it is four kinds of competition is shown, market structures are shown. First one is the perfect competition, then the oligopoly, then duopoly and monopoly. In the perfect competition, the concentration of many firms are there. There is no barriers to entry and exit. Homogeneous products are offered, so there is no product differentiation. There is perfect information flow to each and every party in the industry, so perfect knowledge is there. In the oligopoly, there are lesser firms and significant barriers to entry and exit are there. The products may be differentiated or slightly homogeneous. Imperfect availability of information is there. In duopoly, there are two firms only which are competing with each other, and significant barriers are there. The products, each and every firm tries to differentiate its products so that they can compete with each other, and there is imperfect availability of information. In monopoly, there is only one firm, so there is extreme level of entry and exit barriers, so that no other firm can even try to enter into the industry. There is potential for product differentiation and imperfect availability of information is there. Now we will talk about the Porter's 5 forces of competition framework. You can see in the diagram. The essence of the job of the strategist is to cope up with competition. The arena in which competition takes place is the industry in which a company and its rivals are there in the business. Each industry has a distinctive structure that shapes the nature of competitive interaction that unfolds there. Understanding the underlying structure of a company's industry now and in the future is a core discipline in strategy formation. On the surface, every industry is different. Consider the global automobile industry, the worldwide market for art masterpieces, the booming private equity industry, and the heavily regulated healthcare delivery industry. At one level, these industries appear to have little in common. Industries also differ in another crucial aspect. they register sharply different levels of average profitability in the long run. The most profitable industries generate much higher returns than the least profitable ones. Equally significant differences arise in other countries, both advanced and emerging. To understand industry competition and profitability, however, one must look beyond their differences and view industries at a deeper level. In an industry, there are 5 basic competitive forces that you can see in the diagram. So it is suggested by Michael E. Porter, in his 5 forces analysis. Managers tend to view competition too narrowly, as manifested only in today's direct competitors. As the figure emphasizes, however, competition goes well beyond the established industry rivals. Customers, suppliers, potential entrants, and substitute products are all competitors in the fight for profits. Competitors whose influence may be more or less important depending on the industry. The extended rivalry that results from the interplay of the competitive forces gives rise to industry profitability. Different forces take on prominence in shaping competition in each industry. In the market for commercial aircraft, the key forces are the fierce rivalry between the dominant producers, Airbus and Boeing, and the bargaining power of the airlines that place huge orders for the aircraft. In the movie theater industry, the critical forces are the proliferation of substitute forms of entertainment and the power of the movie producers and distributors who supply the critical input, movies themselves. The strongest competitive force or forces set the profitability of an industry and became the most important to strategy formulation. For example, even an industry where new entry is not a threat will earn low returns if it faces a superior or lower cost substitute product, as Kodak and Fuji, the world's leading producers of photographic film, learned with the advent of digital photography. In such a situation, coping with the substitute product becomes number one strategic priority. Every industry has an underlying structure or set of economic and technical characteristics that gives rise to these competitive forces. We examine industry structure from the perspective of an incumbent industry already present in the incumbent company already present in the industry. The analysis can be readily extended to understand the challenges facing a potential entrant. So first we will talk about the threat of new entrants or the potential entrants. New entrants to an industry bring new capacity and a desire to gain market share. The threat of new entry puts a cap on the profit potential of an industry. When the threat is high, profits cannot rise too high without attracting new competitors, especially when new entrants are diversifying from other markets. They can leverage existing capabilities to shake up competition, as Microsoft did when it entered the market for internet browsers. The threat of entry into an industry depends on the barriers to entry that are present and on the reaction from existing competitors that entrants can expect. If entry barriers are low and newcomers expect little retaliation from the entrenched competitors, the threat of entry is high and industry profitability is moderated. There are 7 major sources of barriers to entry. First one is the supply side economies of scale. These economies arise when firms that produce a larger volume enjoy lower cost per unit because they can spread fixed costs over more units, employ more efficient technology, or command better terms from suppliers. Supply side scale economies deter entry by forcing the aspirant either to come in at a large scale or to accept a cost disadvantage. Scale economies in research, production, consumer marketing, and original equipment manufacturer. Sales are probably the key barriers to entry in the microprocessor industry, protecting incumbents such as Intel. Economies of scale can also arise in logistics, financing, and information technology infrastructure. Second is the demand side benefits of scale. These benefits, also known as network effects, arising in industries where a buyer's willingness to pay for a company's product increases with a number of other buyers who also patronize the company. Buyers may trust larger companies more for a crucial product. Recall the adage that no one ever got fired for buying from IBM when it was the dominant computer maker. Buyers may also value being in a network with a larger set of fellow customers. For instance, each online auction participant is attracted to eBay rather than other auction sites because eBay offers more potential trading partners. Many computers users prefer Microsoft's Windows operating system because other users with whom they want to be compatible also opt for Windows. In addition, computer users prefer Windows because its larger base of users has attracted a greater number of independent programmers who in turn develop more software applications that customers value. Demand side benefits of scale discourage entry by limiting the willingness of customers to buy from a newcomer and reducing the price the newcomer can command until it builds up a large base of customers. Third one is customer switching costs. Switching costs are fixed costs that buyers face when they change suppliers. They may arise because a buyer who switches vendors must alter product specifications, retrain employees to use a new product, or build up new procedures or systems. For example, the larger are the switching costs, the harder it will be for an entrant to gain customers. Fourth one is the capital requirements. The need to invest large financial resources in order to compete creates a barrier to entry. Capital may be necessary not only for fixed facilities but also for customer credits, inventories, and startup losses. The barrier is particularly great if the capital is required for unrecoverable expenditures such as upfront advertising or research and development. While major corporations have the financial resources to invade almost any industry, the huge capital requirements in certain fields such as mineral extraction limit the pool of likely entrants. In fields such as tax preparation services, in contrast, capital requirements are minimal and potential entrants plentiful. It is important, however, not to overstate the degree to which capital requirements alone deter entry. If industry returns are attractive and are expected to remain so, and if capital markets are efficient, investors will provide entrants with the funds they need. It is especially true today when deep pools of private equity stands to fund attractive ventures. Incumbency advantages independent of size. Incumbent companies may have cost or quality advantages not available to potential rivals, no matter what their size. These advantages can stem from proprietary technology, access to the best raw material sources, government subsidies, favorable geographic locations, or cumulative experience that has allowed incumbents to learn how to produce efficiently. Sometimes such advantages are legally enforceable as they are through patents. Unequal access to distribution channels. The newcomer on the block must, of course, secure distribution of its product or service. A new food item, for example, must displace each others from the supermarket shelf via price breaks, promotions, intense selling efforts, or some other means. The more limited the wholesale or retail channels are, and the more that existing competitors have tied them up, the tougher entry into an industry will be. Sometimes access to distribution is so high a barrier that a new entrant must create its own distribution channels. Thus, upstart low cost airlines in Europe have avoided distribution through travel agents who tend to favor established higher fare carriers and have encouraged passengers to book their own flights via internet websites. And the seventh one is the restrictive government policy. Government can limit or even foreclose entry to industries via controls such as license requirements, patent protection, foreign investment barriers, and limits on access to local raw material sources. Regulated industries such as liquor, retailing, and taxi services are visible examples in most developed countries. More subtle government restrictions operate in fields such as healthcare and coal mining. The government can also heighten entry barriers indirectly through controls such as pollution and safety regulations, which raise the standards newcomers must meet. The expectations of potential new entrants about the reaction of existing competitors will also influence their decision to enter or stay out of an industry. Newcomers are likely to have second thought about entry if incumbents have previously responded vigorously against new entrants. Incumbents possess substantial resources to fight back, including excess cash and unused borrowing power, available productive capacity, or clout with distribution channels and customers. Incumbents seem likely to cut prices because they want to retain market shares or because the industry has excess capacity. Industry growth is slow, so that newcomers must gain volume by taking it from incumbents. Entry barriers should be assessed relative to the capabilities of potential entrants, which may be foreign firms or companies in related industries, and as some of our examples illustrate, the strategists must be mindful of how newcomers might find creative way to circumvent apparent barriers. Now the next one is the threat of suppliers or the bargaining power. Suppliers can exert bargaining power by raising prices, shifting cost of downstream to industry participants, or limiting the quality of the goods and services they provide. Powerful suppliers can thereby squeeze profitability out of an industry that is unable to pass on cost increases in its own prices. Microsoft, for instance, has contributed to the erosion of profitability among personal computer makers by raising prices on operating systems. The PC makers, competing fiercely for customers who can easily switch among them, have limited freedom to raise their prices accordingly. An industry will depend on multiple groups of suppliers, including suppliers of labor. The power of each important supplier group depends on a number of structural characteristics of the industry. A supplier group is powerful if it is more concentrated than the industry itself too. Microsoft's near monopoly in operating systems, coupled with fragmentation among PC making customers, exemplifies this situation. Industry participants face switching costs in changing suppliers. For example, they might have invested heavily in specialized ancillary equipment or in learning how to operate in suppliers' equipments, or they may have connected their production lines to a supplier's manufacturing facilities. When switching costs are high, industry participants find it hard to play suppliers off against one another, and suppliers are then positioned to extract profits from an industry Suppliers offer products that are differentiated. Pharmaceutical makers, each with patented drugs that offer different medical benefits, have more power over hospitals, health maintenance organizations, and other drug buyers, for example, than do suppliers that produce me too products. There are no substitutes to what the supplier group provides. Pilots unions, for example, exercise considerable suppliers power over airlines, partly because there are no good alternatives to a well trained pilot in the cockpit. The supplier group can credibly threaten to integrate forward into the industry. Here, if industry participants make too much money relative to suppliers, they will only induce suppliers to enter the market. The supplier group does not depend heavily on the industry. Suppliers serving many industries will not hesitate to extract maximum profits from each one. If a particular industry accounts for a larger portion of a supplier's group's volume or profits, however, suppliers' fortunes will be closely tied to the industry. They will want to protect the industry through reasonable pricing and assistance in activities such as R&D and lobbying. Now the buyer power, or the power of the customers. Analogous to suppliers, powerful customers can force down prices, demand higher quality or more service, thereby driving up costs and play competitors off against each other, all at the expense of industry profits. As with the suppliers, groups of customers may differ in their bargaining power. Customers are powerful if they have clout relative to industry participants, and especially they emphasize price reductions as the means to exercise their clout. A customer group has clout if it is concentrated or purchases in volumes that are large relative to the size of a single vendor. Large volume buyers are particularly powerful if heavy fixed costs characterize an industry, as they do in telecommunication equipment, large scale software development, and bulk chemicals that amplifies the need to keep capacity filled. Industry's products are standard or undifferentiated. If buyers believe they can always find equivalent suppliers, they tend to play one vendor against another. In overnight delivery, shippers pit UPS, Federal Express, and DHL against one another. Buyers face few switching costs in changing vendors. Buyers have a credible threat of integrating backward to produce the industry's product themselves if vendors are too profitable. The makers of soft drinks and beer have long controlled the power of can makers by threatening to make and at times making cans themselves. A customer group is price sensitive if the products it purchases from the industry represent a significant fraction of its cost or expenditures. Here, buyers are likely to bargain hard for a favorable price, as consumers do for home mortgages, where the product sold by an industry is a small fraction of buyers' cost or expenditures. Buyers are usually much less price sensitive. The customer group earn low profits, is strapped for cash, or is otherwise under pressure to trim its purchasing costs. Highly profitable or cash rich buyers, in contrast, are generally less price sensitive. Internet content providers, for instance, became far more selective and powerful buyers of computer equipments after the internet bubble burst and capital became scarcer. The quality of buyers' products or services is little affected by the industry's products, where the quality of the buyer's products is much affected by the industry's product. Buyers are generally less price sensitive when buying or renting production quality cameras. For instance, makers of major motion pictures opt for equipment made by vendors with strong reputations for quality. They pay little attention to the price. Now the next one is the set of substitutes. A substitute performs the same or a similar function as an industry's product, but by a different means. Video conferencing is a substitute for travel, plastic is a substitute for aluminium, and email is a substitute for express mail. For example, substitutes are easy to overlook because they may look very different from the industry's products. To someone searching for a Father's Day gift, and power tools may be substitutes. Substitutes nearly always exist. Many times one substitute is to do without a product, and another is for customers to perform a service for themselves. Substitute products or services limit an industry's profit potential by placing a ceiling on the prices that the companies in an industry can charge. An industry must distance itself from substitutes via performance or marketing, or it will suffer in terms of earnings and possibly growth. The more attractive is the price performance trade off offered by substitute products, the tighter is the lid placed on the industry's profit potential. Sugar producers confronted with the large scale commercialization of high fructose corn syrup, a sugar substitute, learned this lesson in the 1970s and 1980s. More recently, conventional providers of long distance telephone service have suffered from the advent of internet based phone services such as Skype. Similarly, video rental outlets are struggling with the emergence of video on demand services offered by cable and satellite television service providers, and the rise of internet video sites such as Google Video and YouTube. Substitutes not only limit profits in normal times, they also reduce the bonanza an industry can reap in good times while constraining the size of the industry. In emerging economies, for example, the surge in demand for wired telephone lines has been capped as many consumers have opted to make a mobile telephone their first and only phone line. Now, the rivalry among established competitors. Rivalry among existing competitors takes many familiar forms such as price discounting, new product introductions, advertising campaigns, service escalation, and so forth. The degree to which rivalry undermines an industry's profit potential depends first on the basis on which companies compete, and second on the intensity with which they compete. Price is typically the most destructive basis of competition for industry profitability. Price reductions transfer profits directly from an industry to its competitors, and they are usually easy for competitors to see and match, making successive rounds of retaliatory cuts more likely. Conversely, competition on services or features can allow industry competitors to support good margins. Industry competition gravitates to price if the product or service lacks differentiation or switching costs. This makes it easy for buyers to shift vendors and encourage competitors to believe that a modest price cut will bring many new customers. Years of airline price wars reflect these circumstances in that industry. Fixed costs are high and marginal costs are low. This creates intense pressures for competitors to cut prices below their average costs, even close to their marginal costs, in order to steal incremental customers who will make some contribution to covering fixed costs. Many basic material businesses, such as paper and aluminium, suffer from this problem, especially when demand slackens. Capacity must be expanded in large increments. The need for large capacity expansions, as in the chloride and vinyl chloride businesses, disrupts the industry's supply demand balance and often lead to periods of overcapacity and price cutting. The product is perishable. Perishability creates a strong temptation to cut prices and sell a product while it still has value. Many products and services are perishable than is commonly thought, just as tomatoes are perishable because they rot quickly. Models of computers are perishable because they quickly become obsolete. Airline seats are perishable because they are worthless if not sold by flight time. And information may be perishable if it refuses and thereby loses its value. Indeed, many services are perishable in the sense that unused capacity can never be recovered. Regardless of whether price is a primary basis of competition, the intensity of competition is greatest if competitors are numerous or are roughly equal in size and power. In such a situation, rivals find it hard to avoid poaching business. Without an industry leader, practices desirable for the industry go unenforced. Rivals are highly committed to the business but have diverse approaches, origins, and personalities with different ideas about how to compete. Rivals continually run head on into each other. Clashes of personalities and egos have sometimes exaggerated rivalry in fields such as the media and high technology. Now, drawing industry boundaries, identifying the relevant market. What industry is BMW in? World auto industry, European auto industry, world luxury car industry. The key criteria is substitutability. On the demand side are the buyers willing to substitute between types of cars and across countries. And on the supply side are manufacturers able to switch production between types of cars and across countries. May need to analyze industry at different levels for different types of decision. Now, how can we identify key success factors? The prerequisites for success are, first of all, every industry should know what do customers want. It can be done by analysis of demand. Who are our customers? What do they want? And the another one is, how does the firm survive competition? Analysis of competition can be done by the following questions. What drives competition? What are the main dimensions of competition? How intense is competition and how can we obtain a superior competitive position? If we can be able to analyze these two prerequisites, then we can be able to earn success. Now, identifying key success factors through modeling profitability. The case of industry, airline industry, profitability equals to yield into load factor minus unit cost. Profitability is income upon ASMs. Yield is revenue upon RPMs, that are the strength of competition on routes. Responsiveness to changing market conditions. Percentage of business travelers. Achieving differentiation advantage. Now the load factors or the RPMs upon ASMs depends on the price competitiveness, efficiency of route planning, flexibility and responsiveness. Customer loyalty, meeting customer requirements, minus the unit cost, which can be derived as expenses upon available seat miles or ASMs. Depends on the wage rates, fuel efficiency of planes, employee productivity, load factors, administrative overheads. We can summarize this unit. First is the forecasting industry profitability. Past profitability, a poor indicator for future profitability. If we can forecast changes in industry structure, we can predict likely impact on competition and profitability. Strategies to improve industry profitability. What structural variables are depressing profitability, which can be changed by individual or collective strategies. And defining industry boundaries. The key criteria is the substitution, the need to analyze market competition at different levels of aggregation, and the key success factors, the starting point for the analysis of competitive advantage. Hope you have understood the topic and the unit. Thank you.